Welcome back, everybody. July 23rd, 2021, 1:33 p.m. And I've been getting some questions about this thing you're watching form right off the east coast of Florida. It looks pretty scary, but what are we actually dealing with here? And it's not so much the fact that we have a storm forming in this area. A lot of people are looking at charts like this, and they're seeing something like this, and they're automatically jumping to conclusions as if we're in some sort of deep trouble. Now, I'm going to take some time and we're going to learn exactly what these charts mean for those of you that don't know. And of course, we'll talk about this guy sitting here, this disturbance, 30% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. Now that is key because chances are we might not see it in 5 days. We will also take a quick look at a pretty good reason of why we're not seeing too many hurricanes just yet, keyword being yet. And then we will go ahead and wrap it up with where we should be this time of year. Let's check it out. Alright, so let's try to take this step by step. Right off the bat, here we are. We got our 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook chart. This lets us know what disturbances or invests we are dealing with in the Atlantic Ocean currently. And as you can see, again, this is a pretty common hotspot this year for storms to be forming. We've seen this a few times, and now we're looking at another, a little bit bigger, but still, we're looking at a 30% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. A comfortable yellow color. We're not into our reds or our oranges yet, but there's something interesting about this particular storm. And where that gets really interesting is this chart right here that I'm sure a lot of you have seen before, but some of you may not know exactly how it works. And you can see we are looking at Invest 90L. That is the same exact invest that we are talking about right here, Invest 90L. And basically, in a nutshell, what this chart is it tells you the progression of a specific storm over time. So down here, we have forecast hour, 0 through 168 hours from now. And then on the left side of the chart, we have our categories as far as how we measure hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean. And then you can see here we have our tropical disturbance area in white. Anything within this green area is considered a tropical storm. And then we get our category 1s, our 2s, our 3s, our 4s. And thankfully on this chart right now, this thing didn't want to shoot up to a 5. So again, in a nutshell, that's what this chart does here. For a small example, this is measured in knots wind speed. You can calculate it in miles per hour, and the same concept will apply. So if we have a storm at current time right here, they're expecting that 12 hours from now, this storm will be right around this area, maybe a little higher, 27, 28 knot range before it hits the tropical storm level, which is 35 knots, maybe a little less. And now that we have that information, you can see why this would stick out like a sore thumb. We have a model projecting this storm between now and the next 168 hours to reach category 4 wind speeds. Now, how would that even be possible? Well, first off, nothing's impossible in the weather world. And that's very interesting, my friends. You just watched this thing switch in real time to 40% chance of cyclone formation. So we are now looking at a 40% chance of a cyclone forming within this circle right here. I'm actually very happy that changed on screen so you guys could see it happen in real time. But the point of this video is going to stay the same moving forward. How do they expect this to possibly reach even hurricane speeds? And I'm going to show you. We are now going to take a look at some of the different spaghetti plots expected for this storm. And some of them get a little interesting, but they all have a very similar idea going on. This storm is expected to maybe hook out to the east a little bit before coming back south and then maybe hooking into Florida. Now, the issue would be if this thing stays over water. That is the fuel for hurricanes. That's how they survive. That's how they strengthen. And I'm going to switch over to this spaghetti plot because we want to look at wind speed over time. Now, you're going to notice some of these plots have numbers at the end of them, and that's hours from now. So basically, if we get through this jumbled mess right here and we get over Florida and then back into the Gulf, we're already 3 days from now. So we're seeing a lot of 72. Some of them say 96. Now keep that in mind as I put these charts side by side, and now we can make much better comparisons as to where they think this storm will be over time. So according to some of the plots, within 72 hours, which is this line right here, we have already crossed over the state of Florida. So one thing I want to point out that's very important right now is that if this storm does exceed any of these categories, tropical storm, category 1, category 2, it's going to be after this storm crosses over Florida. So what this chart is showing right here are their estimated guesses for after the interaction with Florida. So they're expecting this to be a storm, and they're expecting it to pass over Florida during this time, and then once it gets into the Gulf, that bathtub we always talk about, take a look at what happens after that. These numbers shoot straight up. We do not know if it will be a Category 4. This might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it doesn't change the fact that people have been sending me this chart today saying, did you hear about the Category 4 storm that's going to hit the Gulf? We have to look at this information in the right way. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. Of course, we all know that things can change over time, especially weather. Really anything outside of 5 days, you're moving into coin toss territory. And the reason I want to show this to you guys is because it is a unique setup. We have a storm forming off the eastern coasts of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, and we have plot lines showing it almost going in an opposite direction that we usually see our storms going, kind of wrapping around Florida, possibly into the Gulf, as opposed to being whipped up out into the Atlantic based on the momentum of our Bermuda Atlantic bubble and our jet stream constantly moving west to east. So this is pretty unique. So as we move forward, one click, we see that low pressure symbol pop up representing the storm, but then after that, we really don't see, at least on the GFS as you're watching, this thing really accumulate into anything super significant. It may be a big wet mess all over Florida, Cuba, the Bahamas, clearly the Keys. But again, according to the GFS, through that period of time that we looked at on the timetable chart, we just don't see that formation taking place yet. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We've seen charts showing a completely bare Caribbean with no weather coming on, and then you wake up the next day and all of a sudden we have invests all over the place. So in the end with this video, I just wanted to show you guys that even though we have some charts that show the potential for a very, very strong storm, it doesn't always mean that's what's going to happen, but it also doesn't mean that you should ignore it. I've also been getting questions about why we're not seeing as many storms as we had seen at this time last year. Now, we're actually not that far off, but this chart you're looking at here is our peak season chart. This kind of gives you an idea based on history of when the peak number of hurricanes we get usually is. And I'm sure a lot of you know this. That is the first week going into the second week of September is our highest peak. And I want you to just keep in mind where we are right now. We're way down here. So we haven't even begun to hit the center part of any sort of peak season yet. And I'm not making any promises, but in my opinion, we're going to see a lot of our letters come and go in the next month and a half for sure. Let's also keep in mind the Sahara Dust cloud. I'm not going to get into this too much, but long story short, the Sahara Desert produces enough sand that it literally coats our oceans sometimes, and it's a little harder for these storms to form within sand. And a very little example of what I mean here, you can actually see right where my pointer is, you can see a tiny little storm down here sitting within a pocket of that negative area of sand. So this is also another reason why we're not seeing those storms popping off the west coast of Africa. And also the lingering sand in the Caribbean is helping tame some of our storms in the Atlantic Ocean. And then you can go right down underneath the sand in the Pacific Ocean and you can see why a lot of storms have been popping out there. It's just out of the reach of that Sahara dust. I hope I was able to explain that at least a little better for those of you that don't quite understand why we were seeing the potential for such a strong storm when it's already this close to Florida. Now, a lot of moving parts, a lot of what ifs are going to take place if that does happen, and we'll be following it all the way through. And that's what's important, is to keep yourself updated, even if it's for 5-10 minutes a day. Just check the weather and know what's going on around you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. That's all I got for you for today. Sorry about taking those 2 days off, had some things to get done, but we are right back here in time to watch this storm off the coast of Florida and see how it affects us. I will be back later on today or tomorrow morning. Shout out to Canada, especially Ontario, handling those fires. We still got smoke all over the Northeast here. Hopefully we get some relief in that soon. I will be keeping you posted on that as well. All right, my friends, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.